When most people think of ancient Egypt, the pyramids are probably the first thing that come to mind. These massive structures have stood in the desert for more than 4,500 years. And even today, they leave people wondering the same thing. How on earth were they built? The Great Pyramid of Giza alone is made up of around 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing several tons each. And remember, the Egyptians didn't have cranes, bulldozers, or any of the modern equipment we rely on today. Because of that, all kinds of theories have popped up over the years, from lost technologies to aliens helping with construction. But the truth is actually much more impressive. Archaeologists have spent decades studying the pyramids and uncovering evidence, and while there are still a few mysteries left unsolved, we now have a pretty good idea of how these incredible monuments were built. The process started long before the first stone was ever moved. Building a pyramid wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a project that could take decades to complete. Ancient Egyptian leaders, known as pharaohs, often began planning their tombs soon after becoming ruler. Engineers and surveyors carefully chose a location and measured the land with incredible precision. What's amazing is that the Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly with the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Even with today's technology, that's an impressive achievement. The builders likely used observations of the stars and the sun to help guide their measurements. Once the location was chosen, workers had to map out the pyramid's size, shape, and internal chambers. At the same time, officials organized laborers, gathered tools, secured food supplies, and planned transportation routes. Before construction even began, an enormous amount of preparation had already taken place. Of course, none of that mattered without stone. A lot of stone. The Great Pyramid contains millions of blocks, and every one of them had to be cut, shaped, and transported. Most of the limestone came from quarries near the construction site, which helped reduce travel time. However, some of the higher quality materials came from much farther away. Granite, for example, was brought from southern Egypt, hundreds of kilometers from Giza. Workers used simple tools by modern standards: copper chisels, stone hammers, and wooden wedges. It may sound impossible to build something so massive with such basic equipment, but these workers were highly skilled. They understood their materials and spent years mastering their craft. Cutting and preparing the stones was exhausting work, but it was a crucial step in creating the pyramid's massive structure. Once the stones were ready, the next challenge was moving them. Some blocks weighed as much as a pickup truck, and they had to be transported across land and water. The most widely accepted theory is that workers placed the stones on large wooden sledges and dragged them across the ground. That sounds difficult, and it was, but there's evidence suggesting they poured water onto the sand in front of the sledges. Wet sand reduces friction, making it easier to pull heavy loads. Ancient artwork even shows workers doing exactly this. The Nile River also played a huge role in the process. Boats carried stones from distant quarries and delivered them much closer to the construction site. Recent discoveries have revealed ancient canals and harbor systems near Giza, suggesting that the Egyptians created an impressive transportation network specifically designed to support pyramid construction. The biggest mystery, and probably the question most people ask, is how the Egyptians lifted the stones higher and higher as the pyramid grew. The most popular explanation involves ramps. Archaeologists believe workers built large ramps made from mud brick, stone, and packed earth. These ramps would have allowed teams of laborers to drag stone blocks up to the next level of construction. The exact design of these ramps is still debated today. Some experts think there was one giant straight ramp, while others believe ramps wrapped around the pyramid or zigzagged up its sides. Whatever the design, ramps would have allowed workers to gradually build upward while keeping the stones moving. They likely combined ramps with ropes, wooden levers, and a lot of teamwork. While we may never know every detail, most researchers agree that some form of ramp system was a key part of the construction process. One of the biggest myths about the pyramids is that they were built by slaves. Movies and television shows have repeated this idea for years, but archaeological evidence tells a different story. Excavations near the pyramids have uncovered entire worker villages, complete with homes, bakeries, kitchens, and even medical facilities. These discoveries suggest that many of the workers were actually paid laborers and skilled craftsmen. Some worked full-time, while others may have been farmers who helped during seasons when their fields were flooded by the Nile. These workers were fed, housed, and organized into teams. In fact, some teams even had nicknames that reflected pride in their work. Building a pyramid required not only strength, but also planning, cooperation, and expertise. It was a massive national project involving thousands of people working together toward a common goal. As the pyramid neared completion, attention shifted from construction to appearance. The rough outer surface was covered with smooth white limestone casing stones that were polished to create a bright, reflective finish. If you could travel back in time and see the Great Pyramid when it was new, it would look very different from the weathered structure we see today. Under the Egyptian sun, it would have gleamed brilliantly and been visible from miles away. At the very top sat a capstone that may have been coated in gold or another shiny material. Builders also completed the interior chambers and passageways, which were designed to protect the pharaoh and help prepare him for the afterlife according to Egyptian beliefs. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was also a powerful symbol of the ruler's authority and the kingdom's strength. So, how were the pyramids built? The answer isn't magic, aliens, or some lost advanced civilization. Instead, it was the result of human ingenuity, determination, and organization on an incredible scale. The ancient Egyptians carefully planned every stage of construction, quarried and transported millions of stones, developed practical engineering solutions, and coordinated a workforce large enough to complete one of the most ambitious projects in human history. Even today, engineers and historians continue to study these structures because of how accurately and efficiently they were built. The pyramids are proof that people thousands of years ago were capable of extraordinary achievements, and honestly, that's what makes them so fascinating. The real story isn't about mysterious forces, it's about what human beings can accomplish when they combine knowledge, skill, and perseverance.